Hello and welcome to a new edition of Bengal Magazine. My name is Jeff Ventura, sitting in this week for Tom Kohler. On today's show, we're going to start with cross country and head coach Ray Shadowens. He's bringing along freshman from Grand Island, Genna Baldassarre. In our second segment, we're going to talk women's soccer with head coach Nicholas DeMarsh. He's bringing along senior striker Lindsay Mahoney. And we'll close the show with a little women's volleyball and head coach Maria Roberts and sophomore defensive specialist Hanna Cormier. When we come back, we're talking cross country. Stick around. Hello, we're joined by head cross-country coach Ray Shadowens and freshman runner from Grand Island, Genna Baldassarre. Welcome to the show. An exciting part of the season. We are through what I think I call the training phase. There's meets in there, but now shifting our attention to SUNY championships. Ray, talk a little bit about how the season's progressed to this point. 4 meet wins between the men's and women's teams combined, so real strides of improvement.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say we're beating the teams we should be beating, where in the past we weren't even beating those. Always builds confidence going into this time of year, but we still have to execute. And we kind of got a little exposed this weekend with our depth, with not running everybody, not having the full team run, and a few runners beat up a little bit. We got exposed a little bit. But we knew that going in to SUNY that if we want to continue winning meets and improving and take our team to the next kind of tier within the SUNY, we were going to have to be healthy. But to have four victories is always fun, you know, going in, and it just helps the team's confidence and, you know, making them realize that this stuff is working.
Genna, your freshman season at Buffalo State, talk just about your progress a little bit. It's quite a transition from high school, from the 5K distance to the 6K. I think 3 of our 5 meets were 5K, but you've run a pair of 6Ks, improved by over a minute and a half from your first to your second. Talk about how your training and your freshman season has gone so far.
Well, I would say like the most notable difference between the 5K and the 6K is just mentality. I mean, like there is 1,000 meters in between, and you have to make sure that you're always like pushing 100%. And between the 5K and the 6K, I mean 1,000 meters is 1,000 meters. So you're already pushing as hard as you can during the 5K. And so in the 6K, if you're pushing as hard as you can, what's 1,000 more meters? So you just have to have that really strong mentality. And I think the first 6K kind of caught me off guard a little bit, just because I know the difference isn't really notable physically, but mentally it definitely, like I would say, just to push that little extra bit. With Oberlin, I improved by a minute and a half almost. So I think just having that mentality and being like strong throughout the race and just keep pushing and knowing that it's only an extra 1,000 meters, and what's 1,000 more meters when you're already pushing 100%.
Now, that's kind of interesting. I would think there's more pacing yourself involved, but it sounds like that's not necessarily it. It's just push through that wall when you feel the wall.
Yes.
That's interesting. Ray, talk about the roster on the women's side this year. 9 athletes, and some pretty comparable talent, I think, through the roster there. You know, Ronnie probably leads the group, but there's a lot pushing her now. Talk about what that affords you when you're setting up your training routines.
Yeah, it's great. It's you know, 1, mentality. 2, you know, not only just getting the numbers up, it's quality athletes. We're not just bringing numbers on just to have numbers, and that was something we set forth from the beginning. But I don't have to coach as scared anymore. That's kind of how I say it. I can challenge them a little bit more, where, you know, I'm not worried about if I have 1 runner injured this week, you know, we might not field a team, where that could have been the case, you know, 2 or 3 years ago. So just having the ability to challenge people a little bit more and not be afraid to have some of the freshmen doing the same things as Ronnie is doing right now, even though she is a junior. So it does free us up a little bit more as a coaching staff.
Well, again, heading into the SUNY Championships on October 28th at Potsdam. Talk a little bit about what do you know about the course, and what are your goals now for this next week and a half to prepare your athletes?
Obviously, being in Potsdam this year, we did not have an opportunity to go up there. They had a few smaller meets, but from what I'm hearing is it's more of a traditional cross-country course. There are hills, there's rolling hills. It's a little more off-terrain. and being in North Country and everything. So we've kind of accepted that, put that into our training. We've kept the hill trainings and the strength training going a week or two extra than we've done in the past, and we made sure we went down. Washington and Jefferson is a prime example. That's maybe one of the most challenging cross-country courses I've seen. So we make sure we go down there, just realizing that we're not going to get there. And some of the regional meets and conference meets, it's a racetrack on grass sometimes.
Right, Western New York tends to be flat. Pittsburgh, I don't think there's a flat plot of land in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So I've been just emphasizing that going into the whole year. Like, listen, times are one thing, but you're just going to have to go out there and compete.
Genna, talk about your preparation. Where do you feel you're at, and do you set personal goals, or as a freshman you're not quite sure what to expect? How do you head into SUNY championships?
Well, I feel really prepared because all of the freshmen coming in, it was definitely a new training program, and it was something we had to get used to, but definitely buying into the process that Coach Ray and Coach Nicole have taught us how to do and everything. I definitely think I'm really prepared going into the meet, and just all the improvement I've made this season. I remember in high school I would stay at the same time for a really long time in the period of time. And I think just PRing in the middle of the season, I think was a really, it was a wake-up call, kind of wow, I'm actually doing really good this season, and the training that I've been doing with my team, and it's just really, really nice to be able to run like that and run times like that in the middle of the season. I think going into SUNY, I'm really excited to see what I can do after Oberlin and breaking so much time and getting more than a minute faster. I'm really excited to see what I can do.
Well, we hire good coaches, so if you listen to them, things work out, right?
Yeah.
Ray, talk just a little bit. We got about a minute left. Talk about your expectations heading into SUNY, kind of on both sides. What are you looking for, individuals and team accomplishments?
We have some individuals. I think Ronnie is a prime example. I think she is ready, if she puts a race together, to be all SUNY, which is top 15. It's going to take a great race, just with especially Geneseo being number 2 in the nation, and then with the women's team, I think we're ready to kind of place-wise, it's kind of hard to say because it's a tight pack where we want to be, but kind of taking it to the next tier of teams, of not just going there to go to the meet. With the men, losing Phil early on, and Mitch is still kind of getting back to things, but Kevin Murnock, our sophomore, has finally kind of got over a wall, so I'm expecting him to kind of break through at the SUNY meet, which will be nice for a sophomore. And the same thing with the guys, of just not going there just to compete, getting through the season. I'm hoping that we're ready to take it to the next tier of teams and getting mixed with some other teams.
Like I said, there's been obvious progress throughout the season, and the depth in the rosters is showing. I know you weren't happy with Oberlin because of the depth, but everybody didn't compete. So, so best of luck as you continue to prepare, and good luck at Potsdam next Saturday. Right. Thank you for coming on. When we come back, we're going to talk women's soccer with head coach Nicholas DeMarsh.
No matter who you are or where you're from, you are welcome here.
Tú eres bienvenido.
مرحبا, أهلا وسهلا.
You are welcome here.
You are welcome.
You are welcome here.
Hi, I'm Emily O'Brien, a sophomore on the women's volleyball team. My hometown is Syracuse, New York. My dream job is a UN ambassador. The number one thing on my bucket list is to visit all 7 continents. After I graduate, I am going to grad school in Ireland for 2 years, and my pregame superstition is listening to the same 5 songs on my Spotify.
We'd like to acknowledge our Buffalo State Athlete of the Week from the football team, Kyle Hoppy. The senior business major helped lead a second-half comeback, erasing a 14-point deficit, scored the game-winning touchdown on a 20-yard run on a 4th-and-1 play with just 1:15 remaining. In Buffalo State's 24-21 victory over St. Lawrence last Saturday, he finished 20 of 39 passing for 243 yards with a pair of passing touchdowns. Our Buffalo State Athlete of the Week, Kyle Hoppy from the football team. In our second segment, we're going to shift gears to women's soccer, joined by head coach Nicholas DeMarsh and senior from Port Jefferson, New York, Lindsay Mahoney. Welcome to the show. We're pretty deep into the season here. A different type of season than we're used to in recent years, with such a veteran team that we had building up. 39 wins over 3 seasons, 2 SUNYAC regular season titles, the SUNYAC Conference Championship last year. And what comes with success oftentimes is kind of a rebuilding phase when your seniors carried the team last year. 12 new faces this year. Some good things that we've seen. So I think I've certainly seen some growth in the team. Talk about the challenges this team has presented for you as a coach. Kind of reminded you probably of about 10 years ago, the building again. Talk about the challenges that you've been faced with and the successes you've seen.
Well, like you said, we have a new team every year. Once a team graduates and the season ends, even if you bring in one new player, it's a new team. This year was extraordinary just because of so many new players, and we had such a large turnover, not just from graduation, but from other reasons. And the young players have been asked to play a part in this team that maybe they weren't expecting and weren't ready for. But the good news for them is they've got a ton of experience going into next year. So it's been a new experience and a new challenge for me, a feeling that I haven't had, like you said, in a decade or longer. And it's been a great opportunity for me to learn some things too. I think early on in the season we tried to employ some of the same tactics we've used to be successful over the last few years, and we just simply don't have the personnel or the experience to do that. So we've had to adjust and move players' positions around and play different systems and a different style, and it's been, again, for me, a tremendous learning experience.
You talk about different roles. Lindsay, as a senior, you've been thrust into a different role. You've played in 39 games leading into this season, so you were a contributor on the team. But as a senior, you're kind of the go-to striker this year in a breakout season with 6 goals. Talk about the different role you've played and how you've adjusted, and it seems as though you've obviously embraced that role, putting the ball in the net 6 times.
Yeah, I mean, senior year, so a lot has been changed. I'm kind of a leader on the team now, and with so many new faces, we've had a lot of growing to do and, building relationships. So I've just been trying to, show what I can to the younger players and do my best and try and, score as many goals as I can.
We talk about leadership a lot in athletics. 12 new faces, not to be too assume too much here, but oftentimes you bring in that many new faces, you have maturity, growing pains, and things like that. As a senior, talk about your role. Is it to demonstrate the right way? Are you a vocal leader? How have you led the team this season?
I've definitely learned a lot this season from games and just practices between what I can do for the girls and what is the best to help. So sometimes it's just talking to a girl after practice, like, hey, we can maybe work on this, get a lot of extra practice, or sometimes it's just, I used to do the same thing. I learned by doing this instead. So sometimes it's showing, and sometimes it's just, hey, you got to learn. You got to take the time and put the work in.
Nick, there's a couple games left in this season. A couple of conference opponents that are right in, even with us in the standings. Heading into this weekend against Oneonta New Paltz, what are your goals for the weekend? Are you still trying to learn about this team? I think you're kind of setting up for next season also. And
yeah, we're trying to win every game. So we're going to go to Oneonta on Friday and try to beat them, and then New Paltz on Saturday and try to beat them. We've tried to win every game all year, and as you watch the results, we're closer and closer and closer. Our last 2 games, we were very close, minutes away from getting a positive result. So yeah, it's all building towards the future, but this season isn't over until it's over. So
I want to talk, as a senior, the real world awaits. You had an interesting internship this past summer, and you told me off camera, maybe it won't lead to a career path because the internship may have opened your eyes to, maybe that's not what I want to do. But talk about what you did this past summer and how that is potentially shaping the rest of your career path.
So I intern at a recruiting firm for technology jobs. So pretty much headhunting. When one company needs to fill a position, they come to us, and we're the middleman pretty much. And I learned a lot. I made a ton of connections, and kind of showed me that that's not exactly what I want to do, and showed that I want to go to law school and be a lawyer one day. So kind of pointed me in a different direction, but it really gave me some guidance and definitely made connections and learned a lot this summer.
Nick, I know you've taken a lot of pride academically in your team. In addition to the success on the field, your team is consistently one of the highest achieving teams on campus in the classroom. Talk about I know you encourage your student athletes to get those types of experience, but talk about how important that is off the field to get those experiences and to succeed in the classroom. Well,
I think it starts in the recruiting process, and we recruit kids, I think, for the right reasons. We make sure that they're a good fit here, and part of that fit is the academic piece. I would never recruit a student athlete to come to Buffalo State who couldn't pursue a degree that will lead them on a path to a career. Once you get here, we have certain standards that we expect the players to uphold. They've got to get at least a 3.0 to stay out of study hall, and if they can do better than that, fantastic. So there's a little motivation there, but ultimately, if you do things for the right reasons, if you recruit the right kids to come here because they fit here academically, then you're going to get a successful student athlete.
Well, both of you, best of luck this weekend. Oneonta New Paltz, your final 2 games, so maybe we can double those goals. Let's put in 6 this weekend, and then best of luck beyond graduation. And Nick, the recruiting season awaits, so your busy time is coming up for sure. But again, good luck this weekend. When we come back in our final segment, we're going to talk women's volleyball with head coach Maria Roberts.
This is a college that inspires. Here you'll be engaged, strive for excellence, and prepare for a career. Visit our amazing Elmwood Village campus and apply today. You'll achieve your edge here. This place is Buffalo State College.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Bengal Update. I'm Patrick Smith with a recap of news, scores, and a look at upcoming events surrounding Buffalo State athletics. Men's soccer improved to 12-1-2, already earning its highest single-season win total since 1984, picking up a pair of 1-0 wins over Potsdam and Plattsburgh. Goalkeeper Andreas Queen broke the single-season shutout record set by Tony Gatto in 1982 with his 8th of the season last Saturday. The Bengals return to the field on Friday, October 20th when they host Oneonta at 3 p.m. Women's soccer is 3-11-1 and will wrap up its season this weekend at Oneonta and New Paltz. Senior Lindsay Mahoney leads the Bengals attack with 6 goals, and Victoria Kaladi has added 4 goals and 1 assist. Women's volleyball is 5-17, entering the final weekend of SUNY play, which will be hosted at Buffalo State this Friday and Saturday. The Bengals will open against Cortland on Friday, October 20th at 5 p.m. Lauren Hansen currently leads the Bengals with 253 kills, and Alyssa Dursky has 490 assists. Emily O'Brien and Maria Galen lead Buffalo State in blocking with 44 and 43 respectively. Football moved to 4-2 on the season with a recent 24-21 comeback victory over St. Lawrence. The Bengals erased a 14-point deficit in the second half, thanks in part to Kyle Hoppe, who threw for 243 yards and 2 touchdowns, and scored the game-winning touchdown on a 20-yard run with just 1 minute and 15 seconds remaining. Buffalo State will next visit Utica on Saturday, October 21st for an Empire 8 showdown at 1 p.m. The men's cross-country completed the Oberlin Inter-Regional Rumble, finishing 29th out of 31 teams, while the women were 25th out of 29 teams. Cross country returns to the course on Saturday, October 28th, when it competes at SUNY Championships in Potsdam, New York. Swimming and diving opened their season in the Ithaca Quad Meet. Connor Mergler won the 50 free with the fastest time in the nation so far this season, and freshman Josh Bartell won the 100 back. Buffalo State next competes on Friday, October 27th at the Erie Community College and University of Rochester Tri-Meet at 6 p.m. For Bengal Update, I'm Patrick Smith.
Thank you, Patrick. In our final segment, we are joined by women's volleyball head coach Maria Roberts and sophomore defensive specialist from Fort Edward, New York, Hanna Cormier. Ladies, welcome to the show. 7 matches left in the season. An unusual season, an unusual roster heading into the season. 14 freshmen and sophomores, 1 junior, 1 senior. With that comes some growing pains, but with it also comes some real growth. Talk about the season so far and what you've seen out of this very, very young roster.
Yeah, season's been, a lot of ups and downs, which we kind of expected, and it's been a tough season because we had a really tough schedule. I did not put any easy games on our schedule, You know, I'm the type of coach that wants our girls to learn what really good Division III volleyball is and how to compete in it and how to play in it and to learn from it. And if we can compete and lose, then that's a good thing. So I think that, you know, that's been a really good thing for us to take into the future and grow from. But as far as the overall team goes, this is probably one of the best teams I've ever coached. I think it was one of the best preseasons we ever had. I have girls that work so hard 99% of the time. There's always that 1% that we have to, you know, light a little fire under their tushy.
Well,
but
that's why
they
you
know
get
that.
paid, right? That's the coach's job.
It can't be that easy. But they really want it. The thing is we have to learn how to do the correct thing all the time. And that's what you get when you have a team of 14 freshmen and sophomores, is girls that want it but need to still learn how to do it, you know, 8 out of 10 times, not 3 out of 10 times. And that's kind of where we're at.
Hanna is one of your sophomores, kind of an unusual role as a student athlete. There's not necessarily a wealth of senior leadership to look to, and I think the sophomores have had to take a bit of a leadership role as really the older players on the team. Talk about how that role has gone for your class this season.
I would say it's gone pretty well for what it is, because like there's not that many freshmen that came in, so it wasn't that hard to take somebody under your wing and just let them go. But like everybody came in really, like they knew their position, they knew what they were supposed to do, and it worked really well for the most part. It falls a little bit, but like Coach said, she's got to light a fire under our tushies, and she'll get us back up there.
So 7 matches left, 3 conference matches that are important matches this weekend, hosted by Buffalo State. What are your goals over the final 7 matches? I know, you know, you're looking long term with such a young group, still trying to really develop things for next season. So as you head into the final 7 matches, what are your goals and expectations? Yeah,
the goals are to play at the level that we should be playing at, and for the girls to think about how they want to go into next year as well, to play at a high level, to compete with everyone, and to try to get some wins out of this season, which I know that we can, because there was too many games that we should have won that we didn't win. So, you know, it's really continuing to find a home for some of these girls that have been kind of a little bit of a right side player, an outside player, a middle player. Hannah's played a little front row, a little back row. So trying to find really a consistent spot for these players, and to really get them to start producing 8 out of 10 times and not 3 out of 10 times. That's my goal. I want to see consistency 100% of the time, and I want us to start winning.
I want to shift gears a little bit, because one of the reasons we brought Hanna on is hospitality and tourism major, one of our kind of niche majors on campus that is really an interesting program that affords some of our student athletes to really see parts of the world. And this summer you had a pretty interesting internship. Why don't you tell our viewers what you did this past summer?
Yeah, so I was a steward on 2 ships for American Cruise Lines. I was on the American Star and the American Constellation. They were both on the East Coast. We went around the New England Islands. We went down to Virginia. We went back up to Baltimore, Maryland. Just went around. I was a housekeeping steward, so I just mainly stayed in the ship, just cleaning all day long, every day, 7 days a week, no breaks. 12 to 14 hours a day. It's just a lot of work. You gotta get used to it. I don't know.
Sounds like a blast, but you did get to see parts of the country, and you had said, you know, this is what you want to do, not necessarily that role.
Yes.
But talk a little bit about the program on campus. We have what's called Campus House, which is basically a private restaurant that our students run basically from front to back. Talk about the experiences and why you chose this major and ultimately Buffalo State for this major.
Yeah, so Campus House is a nonprofit restaurant, and I've only taken the class where I worked in the back of the house, so I worked as either a dessert prep or a meal prep or like whatever rotation we were on that week. And you work pretty much like half the day. It's really fun. You get to actually experience like what the chefs do. Like they're telling you what to do. You get to realize like what it's actually like to be in the back of a kitchen and work, like actually make food, which is something that I never did until I took this class. And helped me a lot.
Like I said, it's an extremely interesting program, and I know that we've got some connections with various resorts out there that we've been able to help place some student athletes, but really exciting to see what our student athletes do after graduating from that program, and wish you the best of luck in that program and also with our volleyball program as we head, again, 7 matches left. There's still quite a bit of season left to go, so best of luck in continuing to grow the program. Ladies, thank you for coming on. Thank you to our staff down here in Creative Media Services. We will see you again in 2 weeks for more Bengal Magazine.